Welcome to IT How To. My name is Amit. Today I'm going to show you how to easily install multiple Linux distributions literally in a space of minutes on Ubuntu 22 desktop. This uses LXD to orchestrate the installation of those Linux distributions. So after the intro, I'll get back to you. Before we proceed, I'm actually going to give you a quick demonstration on this process and how quick it is. I'm going to run my script distro_lab.py. It's actually written in Python. And I'm going to select option 9 to create an instance of each Linux distribution that I've put in this script. And we'll go ahead and do that. And you will see how quick this process is. I've also put in a 10-second delay between the creation of each Linux instance as well. The speed of which this takes will depend on your hardware and whether you're running directly on hardware or if you're running the Linux operating system or the host Linux operating system as a virtual machine in Oracle VirtualBox. So each of these Linux instances are actually LXD system containers. All the instances have now been created, so I'm going to hit any key to continue, 0 to exit, LXD space list to show them, and there you can see the Linux distributions installed as Linux systems containers. I've installed Alma 8 Linux, Alma 9 Linux, Arch Linux, CentOS 9 Linux Stream, Debian 12 Linux, Fedora 36 Linux, Rocky 8 Linux, and of course Ubuntu 22 Linux. The rest of the video will show how to set this up in a lot more detail. We're now ready to get started. So a couple of days ago I wrote a Python script called distro_lab to allow me to easily set up multiple Linux distributions as LXD system containers. I find this helps me to easily get into different versions of Linux distributions rather than going through the painful process of downloading individual ISO images and setting up as virtual machines in Oracle VirtualBox. So for me this is a quite quick, simple and painless process. I have made this script as well as my other scripts available on GitHub, so I'll put a link to that in the description box below. So I'm running this script and it's presenting me with a menu, so it will give me a choice of which OSs to install. So I'm going to go ahead and select Arch number 1 on the list, and it's going to present me with a prompt to say we'll create LXD system container instance. Press any key to continue. I have chosen the type, which is Arch Linux. I'm going to give it a name, so in this case it will be Arch Linux, and it will go ahead and download. It will go ahead and start creating the instance and launching it. Because I've actually installed this before, this has literally taken seconds, but if it's the first time you're creating an instance of a particular OS, it will need to go ahead and download the image from the remote repository. That can take a couple of minutes, and then it will go ahead and launch the instance. So I'll hit any key to continue, I'll exit the application, I'll type in LXD list, and there we can see Arch Linux is up and running. So we can go into Arch Linux using the command LXD space exec space arch-linux, which is the name of the system container, space bash. We can check the OS release. It reports as Arch Linux. I'll hit Q to quit out of that. Then I'll run the DistroLab program again. The next OS I want to look at, and it's one I've only looked at extremely briefly, is Alma Linux. Alma Linux and Rocky Linux are basically binary compatible versions of Red Hat, and they don't require a subscription to use them. And for most people, they've actually replaced CentOS as the Red Hat compatible system of choice for reasons I won't go into in this video. So I'm going to take a look at Alma Linux 9, which is actually based on Red Hat Linux 9. So let's select option 6 to continue. I will give it a name. And we'll wait for it to create that. And it's literally taken seconds. So we'll exit the application, we'll list the running instances. I'll go into Alma Linux. We'll check its version. There we can see Alma Linux 9. We'll exit out of that container. We'll run the program again. So after I wrote this script, I was going through each of these options one by one, and I felt this is a little bit time consuming. Let's automate that process. So I created option 9 here, which is to create one instance of each of these types automatically. So it hits option 9 to continue. What that will do, it will actually detect if there's any running instances, and it will go ahead and warn you that it will delete them before it will start creating the rest of the lab automatically. So I do want to destroy these, so I'll type in yes to continue. It now presents me with a countdown timer for 10 seconds. So if I want to cancel this process, I can hit Ctrl+C to stop this. Once the countdown timer has finished, it will go ahead and delete them. Once all the instances are deleted, it will go ahead and create one instance of each OS type. So the first one it's creating is Arch Linux. And literally this process should finish within about 5 minutes. This length of time might vary depending on the hardware you're using. I'm actually running this directly on physical hardware. So I have VSCode on my Mac Mini with an SSH connection to my physical Ubuntu 22 desktop. I will also show you this running on an Oracle VirtualBox VM, but I'll cover that in a later point in time in this video. So between the creation of each instances, I've actually put in a break of 10 seconds so it doesn't overload the hardware. So after it creates each instance, it will wait for 10 seconds, then go ahead and create the next instance. But as you can see, the process is still quick. So it's created the final instance. I'll hit any key to continue, exit out the application, type in LXD list. Then what we can do is we can go into each one and look at the OS it's running. So the easiest way to do that is LXD space exec space the name of the container. In this case we'll try Alma Linux. I'm gonna try see if this works. That didn't work, so I'll try bash. You can actually automate this checking as well. It's quite easily. There's different ways to do that, but I'm going to check manually. We'll look at the next one, next OS. So let's look at Fedora. There we go, there's Fedora. So that works extremely well for me. Actually, I just decided to type in LXD list in the context of the container rather than the host OS. So I will exit out of the container, type that command again, and then we can see the running system container images. What I will do now is I'm actually going to list the images that are locally cached on this OS. So and I'll make the text smaller, make it a little bit bigger, make it smaller again. Okay. And what I want to do is delete these images because I want to give you a realistic representation of how long it will take if you're creating an instance for the very, very first time. What I will do is I will delete this one here. So it's so what you can do is LXD image, I think it's delete, then the fingerprint. So I'll delete the Alma Linux 9 container. It's deleted that. I'll list the images again. And these are the images that I've used previously because I've been trying different versions of Linux in this lab. Now let's go ahead and run this command again. And let's look at Arch Linux 9 again. So I put in 6. I'll give it a name, Alma Linux, or Alma 9 Linux. I'll give it a number because it's a second instance. And because I deleted the locally cached image, it has to download it from the repository. So this will take a few minutes depending on the speed of your internet connection. And I'll go ahead and install that in the local cache. And then I'll launch it. Then let's create another one. So hit 6 again. And this time you'll see how quick it is. This should take seconds, literally. There you go. Exit the application. And there you can see them all up and running. And before I finish this part of the video, I'm going to run the command again, or the distro lab command again. This is available on GitHub should you wish to use this yourself. And the next part of the video will cover how to do that. So before I finish, I'm going to actually delete all running instances. So I'll hit option 10, confirm, and I do like putting in red text for warnings. I'll confirm again, type yes, and it's going to go ahead and destroy all of them. So with a 10-second countdown timer. And you can see it's actually deleting them, and you can see it being displayed in real time as it's go ahead and deleting each instance. So I'll exit the application and I'll pause the video at this point. The next part of this video will cover this process on Oracle VirtualBox running Ubuntu 22 desktop and how to get hold of my scripts to use them. So I'll get back to yourselves shortly. So for this part of the video, we're going to cover the same steps, but on an Oracle VirtualBox Ubuntu 22 VM. So in last week's videos, I created this new fresh installation of Ubuntu 22 desktop, and I also created another video on how to set up and install LXD. So it should be set up and installed. So if you want to do that, set it up, please install it. And then I'll go through the process of how to get hold of my scripts and to run it on this machine. I've just noticed I've got some updates I need to install. So at this point I will stop recording, I'll install the updates, then I'll get back to you. The updates are now installed. I've rebooted Ubuntu 22 desktop. Let's take a look. Before I proceed, let me minimize this virtual machine and just show you a new setting I've applied on this virtual machine. So we go to settings, advanced, and I've enabled these options: shared clipboard and drag and drop, both bi-directional. And the reason for that is I will need access to my GitHub Lab 2022 repository. So I'll go to this link, which I'll put in the description box below. I'll go to code and I will simply copy this, and I will be needing that. I'll go back into the VM. I'm now going to right click, go into open in terminal, open the text interface or the terminal. Let me make that bigger so it's easy to see on the video. The next command I'm going to need is git, and because this is a fresh install, I don't think git is installed. And I'm going to make a directory called scripts. Going to scripts, so I use mkdir to make that scripts directory. Go into scripts, and I'm trying to use git. It's not installed, so I'm going to type in the command to install git. Put in my password. Yes to Y to confirm. Yes, it's installed. Now let me try typing git clone and that URL that I pasted from earlier. Let me see if that works. Oops, it did not like that. Let's try that again. Okay. Let's try that again. Okay, I will fingers crossed. It should hopefully pull that. It's now pulled down those scripts, and we have them there. What I will do next is run these via VSCode. I actually prefer to do that. And VSCode will take care of dependencies such as Python as well. So let me go ahead and install VSCode quickly. I do have another video that covers the installation of VSCode. So it'll be the same steps as I'm doing now, but if you just want to see how to do VSCode, please feel free to look at the other video. I'll put a link to that in the description box below. So I'll go on the left hand side, Ubuntu software, go to search, install look for VSCode, there it is, go to install, put in my password. For this particular occasion, I'm going to use VSCode on this local Ubuntu 22 virtual machine. I won't be connecting to any other machine remotely for this particular example. And I've just noticed there is an error in one of my scripts on the actual GitHub repository. So I'll fix it here locally, but I will make that commit later on after I've recorded this video, so that should you choose to use these scripts, it won't affect you. So VSCode is now installed. It took a few minutes. Let's go to the bottom left. We can find it there. Let's launch it. For the setup, I'm going to choose dark theme, which I prefer. Okay, I don't like this dock on the left hand side, so let's go to settings. Let's move that dock. Go to appearance. Yeah, I've got dark theme already. Go to dock. I will move it to the bottom. Auto hide it as well, because it does, I don't like it personally getting in the way. If I go to the bottom, it should automatically appear. I'll worry about that later. I'm going to go to the top left, go to open folder. I'm going to choose the folder I wish to open, so it should be scripts lab 22. I'll choose that. I'm asked if I trust the author, so I'm actually the author, so I should hopefully be able to trust myself. Sometimes that's not the case. What can I do? And there you can see the scripts on the left hand side. So let's see if we can run this one. So we present. So the reason I've installed VSCode as well, because for people that want to get into Python, VSCode is installing VSCode first and writing a Python script will prompt VSCode to install anything needed to run Python scripts, and it's the safest and easiest way to get into Python, which I'll cover in future videos. So this is asking me to install the recommended extensions for Python, so I'm gonna click on install. I just remembered, let's move my video window very quickly, get that out of the way so it doesn't block it doesn't block what I'm trying to show right now. So click on install. It's installed in Python, and I might cover this process on a new Windows 11 install, which I've got running directly on my laptop as well. So for people that want to use Python on Windows, which is totally understandable, so I'll cover that in a future video. So it's installed in Python. We'll let it install. It's taken a few minutes by the looks of it. It's now installed. Excellent. Let's go back to the files on the top left. Let's close this tab here. Let's close this tab here, and let's go back to DistroLab. And yeah, so there's a few typos which I've fixed in my local code on my other machine. So I'm just going to remove this. I don't need that in this particular script. Let's go back here. You just notice I'm actually using Mac shortcuts on a Ubuntu machine. That never works that well. So as my daily driver, I use Mac. But I've got to remember I'm not currently on a Mac, not directly anyway. So I'm going to remove that. There's something else I need to fix. I also noticed a typo here, so I'm just going to change that to Alma 9 rather than Alma 8. And I've got to remember I'm on a Linux machine, not a Mac, so Control S, not Command S. And let's see if this runs. So it runs. Okay, so the script now runs, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit option 9, create an instance of each type. And it's now currently 1:31 PM, and we'll see how long this takes. And because this is a relatively new installation, most of the images won't be in the local cache, so it has to download them remotely. So we just wait for it to go ahead and download the images for the ones it needs, and then we'll just wait for it to start. While it's doing that, let's move the webcam window back to its original location on the bottom right. So it's already downloaded the image for Arch Linux and it's created it. I think I've spotted another typo as well. No, I haven't. Arch Linux is the correct name. It's now creating Fedora 36 Linux. Now Debian 12 Linux. Now Rocky 8 Linux. And as you can see, this process is being slowed down by the fact that it needs to download the images. That's creating Alma H Linux. And I'll be honest with you, in the old days, if I wanted to try, say, 6 or 7 new distributions, it would have literally taken me an entire weekend to download the images, the ISO images, which are multiple gigabytes in size, install them one by one. You could be lucky if it's an hour for each installation. If it's something complicated like Arch Linux, that could take a lot longer. This process is a lot easier for myself, and to be honest with you, I like to make things easier rather than difficult for myself. Now, some of you who may be new to Linux might have questions like, should you switch over to Linux from Windows? And if you should you wish to do that, what distribution to try? I'm going to answer that question very quickly. It basically depends on you, what your use case is, what you wish to do day to day, what software programs you need to use, what hardware you have connected to your devices, and that is a decision not to take lightly. For me, I do have a use case to use Linux, Mac OS and Windows, because not everything I need to works on all 3 of those. So should you wish to use Linux as a daily driver, you need to think extremely carefully about what you wish to do and about what your use case is. I'm personally not a PC gamer, so that's not a factor in my decision. And the only thing I can advise is, first of all, get familiar with the distributions yourself using Oracle VirtualBox to download and install them on a virtual machine. Get an idea of the look and feel, try some software. And if you're brave enough to go to to install Linux directly on hardware, then it's best to choose a distribution that makes it easy for you to install Linux alongside your Windows operating system, and it'll give you a chance to switch between both of them. But yeah, but if you're new to Linux and you want to get to learn about Linux and get into it, the safest way is to use Oracle VirtualBox on Windows, and maybe try an easy distribution such as Ubuntu 22 or one of its derivatives such as Pop! OS or Zorin. For server operating systems, what I'm showing you today is a really good approach to take as well. So I'm going to go back to this. It's now created the actual images. 0 to exit. I'll type in LXD list, and there we can see they're all up and running. They're created, and I'm going to take a look at Arch. Let's look at Arch. LXD space exec space Arch Linux. Type in bash. We're now in the context of Arch Linux. There we go. So that's it for looking at this particular script or this tool on Oracle VirtualBox on a Ubuntu 22 desktop running on Oracle VirtualBox. I'm now going to go back to my Mac. So let's go back to my Mac. I'm going to minimize my RDP session to my Windows host OS. This is a physical Windows machine, by the way. So let's minimize that. Let's go into VSCode on my Mac. So this is connected via SSH to my physical Ubuntu 22 desktop. I'm now going to look at Git to see what Git is saying. So I made my previous commit yesterday morning before work, where I actually created the DistroLab script. I will now type in git diff. I just remembered I might create a video on Git as well for people choosing to get used to Git for the first time. So I've made some changes where I've fixed some errors, made some other minor changes. So I'll update that to the GitHub repository. See what other changes I've got there. Yeah, I've increased the actual sleep between creating each instance from 3 seconds to 10 seconds. That's fine. That's not a problem. So let's go ahead and do. So I'm actually going to do git status again. So that shows the changes. So git diff shows the changes. Git status shows what's been changed. So I'm going to do git add the name of that script. Git status. It's okay. It says that script has now been modified. I now need to put in a commit statement. So I'm going to go to git log. I'm going to quickly temporarily put. Yeah, I'll be fine. So I'm going to look at another window. So let's exit that matrix screen. I'll put that on my next monitor quickly, and I'm just going to do a git commit message to say what the change is. So I'm going to put it on multi-lines, fix minor issues. I've started the comment with a single quote. So if I hit return, it's going to open a new line. I'm going to type in that again. I'm just going to cut and paste the rest of the commit message. So that's my personal website. Close the commit with another single quote. It did not like that, so let's try that again. Okay, I'm just going to make my life easier, to be honest with you. So this normally works for me, but not having a good time while I'm recording, so let's try that. Okay, right. That's a big fail. So let's try a different approach. I'm just gonna put in a simple git commit message. Actually, I know what the problem is now. I know what the problem is. I forgot the -m flag or the -m flag. Let's do that. Okay, I'll put in the git commit. The joys of trying to do something while you're recording a video. I will leave this in because it's important to show people when they make mistakes, because we're all human. So normally I just forgot to put in the flag for putting in that commit. I put in git status, and finally I'm just going to put in a git push. Now this is my personal project. I'm the only one working on this. People that work in a professional environment that write code, and I'm not a developer, I'm not a coder, but people that do coding, development, programming for a living, what they tend to do is they will have someone actually review their code before they actually commit their code to the repository. But in this case, for this personal project, I don't need someone to review my code. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in git push, and I will now go back to my virtual machine. So let's go to my remote desktop environment. Go back into my Ubuntu machine. Exit out of that Arch Linux instance, and I'll do a git pull to pull the latest changes. Okay, so I just noticed I've made some local changes here which would override it, so it causes a conflict. So I will not worry about that in this moment in time. So there's a way to get around that. What I will do is go to my GitHub repository here, refresh the page, and you can see the latest commit that I put in there, which shows the changes that I've just put in. So that's about it. So in this video we've covered how to use Python to create multiple versions of Linux distributions really quickly, and I've also put in GitHub actions and the Git CLI actions towards the end of this video. So I just wanted to say thank you for your patience. Thank you for getting to the end of this video. If you like the content I produce, please subscribe to my channel. Also, do not forget to hit the notification bell should you wish to be notified when I upload further videos in future. Most importantly, please feel free to reach out to me in the comments should you have any ideas, any queries, any future video ideas, and I'll do my best to get back to you quite quickly. And apart from that, I just want to say thank you very much. Have a nice day, and I really hope to see you all soon.